Hi, my name is Rachel McLeod, and I am a licensed clinical social worker and emotional wellness coach. And today we are having an Ask Me Anything about getting rid of anxiety, depression, and traumatic stress. And so I open the floor to you to ask any questions, even if you catch the replay of this. And you can ask your questions in the comment section. I will answer this. I have done a lot of videos about how to get rid of symptoms of anxiety, depression, traumatic stress, how to work with the brain very specifically in a very strategic way. To get rid of symptoms very quickly in 2 to 6 months. That's really my specialty. And so I encourage you to go look at those. And videos like it are going to be part of just summer hanging out, enjoying the time. I've really had so much fun building your skill set, your knowledge, teaching you interventions. That's what we've been doing in my Facebook group is I've been handing these over and like, try this intervention, see what that does. I've been getting so many wonderful emails from so many people talking about how the changes they're noticing and the symptoms that they're resolving on their own. Exactly. Um, exactly what should be happening because brains do this. This is not just something that I made up or this is from brains are powerful. Brains are one of the most powerful pieces of equipment we have available to us, and if not the most. And so one of the most. Okay, that's what I'll say there with that. But it's powerful. And when you can learn how to help it do the work it wants to do, things unfold. And so I'm going to keep talking because I invite you. I see people have jumped on. I invite you to ask questions. That's what we're here for. And but usually I start talking about whatever I want to talk about, and people come up with their questions. But um, so I'm going to do that while I'm waiting for questions. And but jumping back. Oh, hi, Melissa. So good. Oh my goodness. One of the wonderful people that are sharing their experiences and transformation with me. I got your email. I'm reading it. All right. And Shakia. Oh, yay. Yes. Okay. So Shakia says, I hope I'm saying your name right. It's beautiful. Thank you for your passion. I would love to work with you directly one day. Yes, let's do it. Because of you, I recognize that I have serious issues and I need to seek help to heal so that I can raise healthy children. Yes, that is how we raise healthy children. Um, Gosh, I did not know how we raise healthy children. I did not realize I had a blazing anxiety disorder until I had 3 children. I have 5 now. I and holy cow. Um, People would, I mean, it's just, they would ask me, oh my gosh, it must be so hard having 3 children. No, these children are fabulous. They're great. We know what's hard is what's going on in this brain right here. That's what's hard. And but I would think about this and think about this, and finally I got these tools to start working with my brain and started healing. But during that time when my brain wasn't working, I was out here looking for how do you raise healthy children. I thought it was this, I thought it was that. Oh my gosh, no. You know what? It's very simple. Be emotionally well. And then I was like, oh, okay, let's try that out. Turns out that's the ticket. It's nothing else. It's not about the right strategy, the right routine, the right um, daycare, the right bed, the right co-sleeping, the right attachment parenting. I mean, it's really about who are you? Can you be you? If you can't be you, how are you going to raise a little person who's going to be them? Right? And if you can't be you and they're going to be like, oh, okay, well, we be other people. So I'll be you, mom, and well, okay, that wasn't very fun. Let me try being like, no, like they need to learn how to be them. And so if we don't know how to be them, how are we going to help them to learn how to be themselves? So you have landed on the ticket. And so I encourage you, Shakia, go, keep getting it. That it is so cool. I'm telling you, my kids are awesome in and of themselves, and I learn things from them all the time, but I'm gonna tell you that it's really cool to create a huge shift in myself and then see it impact them. And then they'll come back and tell me about something that is like, ooh, and I can see that it was because I made a shift. Um, Last summer, I yanked out a big program. Um, I was whining at my kids. I didn't realize I was whining at them because it was my family's native language. I love my family, but we throw lots of pity parties. That's in the native language. I didn't know I was doing this pity thing. Meanwhile, my kids are like, they can smell it, they can hear it, and I can't all the time. So they're my feedback. If the eyes start rolling, I'm like, what? Okay. So, but I was whining at them. I really had a belief that they weren't cleaning up because they didn't care about me. This is crazy town. And I said that even out of my mouth. You don't care about me. And then I was like, and they're rolling their eyes. And then they're like done with, no, we do, mom, we do. And I was walking, which is a form of EMDR, mind you. And I have my buzzers on. I teach it. I teach that strategy in my free Facebook community group. You can try it out yourself. It's awesome. Really gets your brain moving. And I'm walking. I've got my buzzies on. I might be using some emotional freedom techniques, and I'm just feeling so bad about my kids not picking up. And I just want to whine, and I am whining because that's my rule. I will throw the pity parties with myself instead of other people's, but only when using an intervention. That's a huge hack. Try it out. Play with it. Throw all the pity parties with your intervention. Okay. It cuts the need to do it over and over and over and over again. So I'm out there doing this, and all of a sudden my brain says, uh, I could hear that same statement in my mother's voice. And then I could hear that same statement in my grandmother's voice. And then I was like, oh my gosh, I'm repeating programming. So, but then my brain started doing more of it, and I just watched it, and then I was like, this is ridiculous. And then all of a sudden it was like it had been in my brain, it was like plastered over my kids. And all of a sudden it was like this little piece came up. It was like a little bit of, I don't know, like when you got a tape over something and then a corner comes up? That happens in your brain. At first, it looks like it's all there and you can't touch it. And then next thing you know, you keep using the interventions, you use the intervention. All of a sudden, the little corner pops up. And I grabbed this little corner and I peeled it off. And I was like, oh, my kids aren't doing this because they don't want to. They're not doing their chores because they don't want to. Not it has nothing to do with me and whether they care about me or not. I was totally just making that up and doing that and playing that song and dance that my ancestors have been playing for generations. So I was like, oh no. So anyway, I went home and apologized and we had a laugh about it and they were like, yeah, you were tripping. And so, so and then we had the real conversation, people, which is really what the deal is about but what are you going to do when you don't want to do your work? What are you going to do? How do you want to be? What kind of human do you want to show up as? Let's look at the benefits. Let's look at the negatives. Let's look at the consequences of not doing this stuff. Like, let's just talk about this, and let's also talk about what kind of support do you need? I got one whose brain is running a mile a minute. I got another one who is really good at their chores, but he's like, I'm not going to do this because then you're going to have me doing all the chores for everybody, which when you're really good at something, all of a sudden everybody wants you to do it or everyone's lagging. And I'm like, I see you, I get you, and you're not doing extra chores. You're not going to do extra work around here just because you're good and you zip and he's a high performer in the chore department. So anyway, I'm talking about all the things over here, but it's really, really, really cool when you pull back your stuff and you can actually see your kids. And my kids do need support with this, right? I would like them to be humans that go out into the world and don't self-destruct, right? That would be great. I think this will be like, this will be a generational accomplishment for us. So that's what I'm going for. Anyway, I didn't anticipate all of that. I'm gonna take a drink and chill. I don't see any questions yet. And I'm just gonna keep rolling here if you don't ask any questions. Okay. Um, okay, there's a question. Okay, okay. Does diet and exercise play a big role? And she says, "Sorry, just getting on." You're just getting on, but you did it. You took us into the question and answer phase. Um, okay, I'm gonna extend that question a little bit so that we're all on the same page with it. Does diet and exercise play a big role in getting rid of symptoms of anxiety, depression, and traumatic stress? Um, I have several answers going off in my head. I'm gonna tell you what I notice in no specific order, and then we'll pull it together and we'll say something. Okay, feel free to participate in this. Um, I would say diet and exercise play a huge role in your wellness. Period. Emotional, mental, spiritual, physical wellness. Yes, it's a must. Um, and you will know how well you are emotionally, mentally, spiritually, and physically if you are exercising and eating well. Typically, um, healthy people who are not self-destructing, because and self-destruction I would say is a subconscious program that comes because of traumatic stress, and whether that's your traumatic stress or traumatic stress down your generational line, and that has just moved forward and you've learned it, that's really where it comes from. And the brain has a process for upgrading its subconscious programming. And um, and so okay, I'm going to say that now. I'm going to come back to where we're at. We're going to do this here a little bit. But um, your question kind of, for me, sounds like what comes first, the chicken or the egg? And because does diet and exercise come first, or does health and wellness come first? Emotional and mental health, or the absence of symptoms of anxiety, depression, and traumatic stress. Um, there are things within exercise that help the brain function well, that you don't, some like walking is a form of EMDR. It's bilateral stimulation, right? One side, the other side, one side, the other side. You're actually having your brain cross over into the left and right hemispheres. That's really good. It puts your brain in a really powerful processing state, as a matter of fact, and really can keep you moving emotionally and mentally. As a matter of fact, some walkers and runners, if they get an injury and they can't do the walking and running thing, if that's their primary way of processing emotions, they will notice more buildup of stress. And that's because their brain is using that function to really get work done. And so without that diet, that exercise, or their usual exercise, they're not getting that work, right? And brains, okay, so brains sometimes need support, but diet and exercise can be used as a distraction to getting to the root issue. And I don't mean that as a bad thing at all. I just mean that as literal. That some people can use, they can keep their brains moving with these two things, and they can keep their brain moving. And because it's moving, things aren't that bad, right? Many of us, especially high performers, are not going to take action until there's a whole train wreck and no one can pass. I wish we wouldn't do that, but we do. And so we can use diet and exercise to keep things moving. But if your diet and if your anxiety, depression, traumatic stress is from, like, you've had this pattern since you were a child, um, and you're still having symptoms, then the root of the problem is not in lack of diet and lack of exercise, in the childhood stuff, in the stuck emotions there primarily. And when you can get your brain to move the stuck emotions, what happens is when the stuck emotion moves, then the whole army of the brain can get on that trauma and start picking it apart and processing it and figuring out how we're going to be in the world. And it's going to create a new program, a new subconscious program for you to run on that will be more flexible and healthy and big. If it doesn't, what happens in childhood, these traumas happen that our brains take trauma and or stuck emotion. Brains take trauma, emotion, situations, and that's where we get that's they do this process that results in growth, right? And so if your brain is gets an experience like that is a trauma, that it's emotional and it can't go through its process, it doesn't get growth. It actually just gets stuck in the process. And so nothing behind it, like right, this is the process where it's stuck. None of this stuff's getting built. And so you're going to go live your life and then your brain is going to come here and trip over the no program here, right? And then it's going to be like, why isn't there a program? And they're going to, why isn't there something here? And then it's going to go look for it because it knows these things, because surfing the neural pathways electrically, right? And then it's like, oh, it's back here, right? And so then it's like, oh, I need this thing processed. So then it comes back here to try to process it, and it comes into that block, and then nothing's moving. And here, when this block hits there, that's when they like erupts with symptoms of anxiety, depression, traumatic stress. But in real time, you're trying to just accomplish this thing that there's no program for. There's nothing developed here. And your brain knows it's got to go get that and move it through to build this. But since we don't know how to do this, we think, or, and this happens all within, electric speed. Um, we're like, I can't get past this place because you don't have a program for it, a subconscious program. And so it says, oh, I'll just go around. And you'll do all sorts of odd things to get around this thing and just keep it going. Right. And so that's a problem. And so diet and exercise is not going to touch that. Right. That's brain work that needs to be accomplished. Now, let me tell you, having your brain isn't going to also be able to do things like this if it doesn't have sufficient vitamins and minerals, and if, exercise helps with moving toxins out of the body, it helps with the whole lymph program. The lymph nodes directly affect your meridian systems, your energy communication highways, and many more things. And actually, I'm sure all of that toxicity really creates unhealthy brain function, right? So that's its own problem. Now, diet and exercise is going to do this, and the exercise piece is going to help with some of the processing, maybe. And we can accidentally there, if you're doing this exercise while your brain is like trying to go find that program and pull it through, and you've got some EMDR going on right here, the chances of this door opening and actually letting this unprocessed thing come through is high, if you can know to intentionally grab that thing from the past and bring it forward while intervening like this when your brain is in optimal movement for processing. So you can be proactive. You can get all ninja like and be like, let's go. We're going on a walk. Or were you going to, I encourage people to use interventions, because let me tell you, when you're talking about moving an anxiety, depression, trauma disorder into remission, it's a lot of walking. I find that to do this work, it takes about 120 to 300 hours of specific and targeted brain work, intentional. And that intentional piece is the one thing that I see helps us get the fastest results. Otherwise, we're waiting for all the stars to align, the brain function, the actual accessing of memory, like, and all that stuff to happen well. And that stuff doesn't always happen well, but we can intentionally line it up like that. We can go get it, use an intervention on it, pull it through. And then we can go get the next thing. And then once you get that emotion moving, then the rest of that material comes forward, and then the brain can work with it, and it can create this program that was missing here. And so instead of you having to go around or run into it and then try to go, you're like, oh, I got you, let me go get that, let's run into this, have a bunch of symptoms, and we still can't accomplish this little thing we're trying to do right here, we got to go around, or then you learn, hey, let's not even make that happen because that will trigger us into a whole meltdown. Let's just not even think about that ever and not even try to do that, so that we don't get stuck in this gridlock pain thing. Right? So you want to help your brain do the healing work it wants to do. You really, really, really do. And so, and some of your brain, the desire your brain is maybe sending you is, hey, I need more building blocks. I need more vitamins and minerals. And I bet you if you would give me this food, I would do it. But sometimes we can't eat the food because we're stuck in subconscious, we're stuck in the needing to cope because of all the trauma we're experiencing. And we've got, our brain has learned if we eat this crappy thing over here, it reminds us of this positive time in our memory. And then so if right when we feel bad, then we eat this food, we start feeling better, we regulate, we calm, oh my gosh, I'm better. Right. And so your brain is sending you on this junk food thing journey so that it can regulate itself because it found a way that actually works to get it out of that funk thing. Because when you hit this thing you don't have, and then you're accessing a past memory at lightning speed, and then you're coming here, your brain, your prefrontal cortex locked in. It's like, I'm trying to get this, and it will just like this action right here will go on for hours and days. Who could do that? I can't even do that for very long. I'm busy. Right? But that's what brains will do. It's painful and it uses up a lot of resources. And it's just that's what those racing thoughts are about. And so we can't tolerate that. And the brain knows, your survival system knows this is not okay. We need to stop this now. And if you need to go get that cookie ice cream, that cookie dough ice cream, to eat that and get us out of that brain state, you're going to eat that because your survival system will say, hey, subconscious program, reminder of that Ben and Jerry's ice cream, please, right now. Give her a story and make it look good. And your whole system will start to put this show on for you that makes you take those steps to the store and get that food. Right? So sometimes diet and exercise is off limits while you have symptoms. And so, and that's okay because we can get that function back. The function of you to be able to eat the healthy food that your body is asking for, that's a function, especially one that can get hijacked by the need to cope. The function of shifting your brain out of distress states without using food. Well, this piece right here is exactly what the interventions do. It helps shift you out of distress states. And that's what our brain is craving, that it needs it. As a matter of fact, when we go into distress states, that blocks the symptoms from actually moving through. So the more we stay out of that distress state, the more symptoms can move through, the more our brain can actually function, and that we can actually see our kids and our family members. Because once that distress state goes on, we start to get stuck in the back of the brain in our survival system. And that's not where your thinking center is. It's not your problem solver. It's not any of those things. So the more time you spend in a regulated state that you're in the front of your brain, the better. Now, what happens in people's life is there's so many things that send them to the back. I work with a lot of people that wake up from the very first opening their eyes. They're getting flashbacks and what that are sending them into a survival state. And then they take their next step in survival state. Everywhere they go all day long, survival state, survival state. Whoo, right? So the work there is to use those interventions a lot and come back to the thinking center. Come back to that's why I have people do this work for 2 hours every day. There's a lot. When you have daily symptoms, there's a lot of work to do, and let's do it. So diet and exercise absolutely plays a huge role, and they may be functions that are off limits, and that's a brain thing, and we can get that back. Um, but some people can diet and exercise. Some people can eat well, not diet like diet, but like some people can have the function in their symptoms. That function is available. So do it. Anything you can do for yourself, do it. And understand that if you can't, it's not because you're lazy, it's because your brain function really will not let you. And often that sometimes people can start and they can't finish, and start and they can't finish. You're running into subconscious blocks and limitations that likely have to do with symptoms of anxiety, depression, and traumatic stress. Lazy is not a thing. That's not even something that humans are. We love restfulness. That's a real thing. But laziness, no, that's usually we're blocked somewhere. And it's been that way every case I've ever seen. So I'm going to go with that. That's my final answer on laziness. Um, but that's a really great question, and I hope I answered it. If I didn't, please ask some more questions about it. And yes. So, and Natasha says, yeah, I never thought of. Yes, thank you, Melissa. Exactly. I'm gonna heart that because I love it. She says, Pound, it's not because you're lazy, it's because your brain function won't let you. Yes. Um, Never mind. I'm not gonna let you in on my humor with myself. I love it. Those were my words, right? And anyway, but I love that she's tagging. She's just so creative. I appreciate all the things she tags and how she tags them. Okay, Megan says, I'm wondering. Okay, wait, hold up. Natasha says, I never thought of walking as bilateral stimulation. Absolutely, right? There's a study that I saw. It convinced me to start walking. And that was my last year's experiment, and it showed how the brain is lit up after 20 minutes of walking, and so it's absolutely a mental health intervention, and it's actually an of anxiety, depression, and traumatic stress intervention, and so do what you will with that. So if you can, absolutely do that. If you can't, it's not because you're lazy; it's because your brain function won't let you. Um, Megan says, I'm wondering how to remember and distinguish which traumas have you stuck. Yeah. If you've experienced lots of trauma or have blocked it, how can you access what you need to know? Yes, great question. Um, I was talking about this today. Um, and I'm going to give you two answers. One is that um, you can always find the root issue of any symptom by tracking it. And so let's say, okay, let me say that differently. You can always find the trauma that needs to resolve. Here we go. By looking at your symptoms as they show up today. If you use today, you can grab one of those symptoms and you can track it in. You can walk yourself in. You got to hold on to that one symptom and find your way all the way in. And you can find any root issue this way, any traumatic event. Okay. And I teach these strategies a lot. I don't, because let me see if I can. I teach these experientially in my 8-week program, my 8-part program, Inner World Transformation, which is available on my website. Okay. And it's available for you to get started on now. The self-study version is, okay, we're not going to go there. Okay. So I teach this in 8 parts and I teach this experientially. So by the time I answer this question in real time with actual words, you've had lots of experience with your brain function on each one of these layers. Okay. So when you're tracing a symptom in, there's several components here. One, you got to be able to grab it. And sometimes symptoms are so big you can't grab them in the moment, so you got to wait till the next day, and then you're like, holy cow, that symptom, and you grab it then. Okay. And you're going to use your interventions the whole time. I teach people. Okay, I teach people how to do emotional freedom techniques, thought field therapy, energy medicine, and EMDR. So these are the ones I teach. And so whichever one is the right fit for you and that you're comfortable with using, and all you need is a basic level of skill with these interventions to do this work. So you got to grab the symptom and then you start using your intervention, and then you're going to keep working around it. I teach people how to break this up into itty bitty parts because you need to get this through. And pretty soon in breaking it up into itty bitty parts, one of these things will kind of light up for you. I don't know how else to say that right now. And you're going to grab that one little skinny piece of this whole symptom, and you're going to grab onto that and start pulling. And so, um, and you'll come to different layers. Sometimes you, okay, let's try this again. Okay, so because I do this now. Um, okay, I'm going to do it like I would as a therapist, not explaining to you how I would teach you how to do this, because I teach people how to do this as well as therapists by the end of my course. And I do that in layers, right? But the truth of the matter is, and if you find any a trauma therapist worth their salt, they will do this with you. They will have you find the symptom. I don't know if they'll have you do that. That's something I do. Um, okay. Once you have a clear target, most therapists do that. You have a target. And I use symptoms as a target. Once you have a clear target, you can find the symptom in many places. You can find it in your body. You can find it in your subconscious programming. You can get your subconscious to tell you all about it. You can get your survival system to tell you all about it. And you can get your thoughts to tell you all about it. It's the four different parts that I like to work with. Um, so I have a preference that is mine. And so, and I like to let the body tell us what this is. It's just my preference, and it's easier, I find, and less. Sometimes when we use our thoughts about it, it can really be painful. And I like to use the body. You're going to hear me say that, but the survival system has priority always. And if I find a symptom and your survival system starts saying all this stuff, that's who we're working with first. And this stuff right here, we need to use the interventions on it. Like it'll say, I don't want to talk about this. This is terrible. I'm going to make your heart race. And it'll say all these things. Let's avoid this. It's very creative. And I usually, people have their survival systems have patterns and styles, right? So when I'm working with people, I'm getting to know their survival system, um, and helping them get to know their survival system. So but once the survival system chills out after some intervention use, usually then you can have a talk with the body. And the body, when you hold the symptom, it'll say, oh my gosh, I feel this in my stomach or wherever it feels it. So, and then you're going to notice that. And then there is a trick, a mind body trick. I teach this in the third part of the program. So I teach you how to do this. You can use that body sensation to find the original memory of the issue. And so that original memory could take you back to when you're 5. It can take you back to when you're 20. It can take you back wherever was the first sensation that this problem began. It'll take you back there, and it'll just bring it up from your mind, because the body apparently has, like, all these sensations are memories, right? So they have direct access to your memory bank. And so these sensations that you'll find in your body are not just your stomach hurts, they're actually your body's way of remembering and having and storing memories. So your stomach hurting all the time when this is happening is usually a memory that needs to be resolved. And I like to do that because it doesn't, your thinking center can take you into all these directions because it thinks thousands of thoughts all the time, but your body usually never lies, and it doesn't know how to do all the, just like it doesn't have the same function. It doesn't examine everything from every direction. It just says, I'm hurting and I don't feel well. And that's it. And that's all you need to know. And then when we're doing that, sometimes, okay, so that float back technique, I teach that in the third part of the program, but that's not, and I'm very clear about this in here. I give you full instructions in the program. That is not right for everybody. If you have significant trauma and you're not remembering experiences, this is not the right path for you. We do not do any of that work for a while. And we will actually just hang out with the stomach and use interventions with your stomach to resolve and clear that symptom in the present. We will not go back to the to the original memory, because you don't remember it for a very good reason. That's your survival system is speaking to you, having a conversation with you about it. It says, no, you're not. You don't get access to this. This will destroy us. I'm certain, and it might be wrong. It might be right, but I don't question that. When the survival system says, okay, I think you can handle this, it will bring it up always. And if it needs it resolved, it will. But this is what happens. So when we're working with if you can't go back yet, and there will be a time when you can go back because brains heal and it will be safe to do that work. But when you resolve the stomach issue in the moment, number one, your body is like, I am your biggest fan. And it just stops hurting. And that ache or pit goes away. And then a lot the wheels can start moving, and that's really my whole goal, is to get the wheels moving. And so if we can't get the wheels moving at the origin, we can get the wheels moving in the present. We can, even if we can't get the wheels moving in the present, well, let's go to the future. Let's get the wheel anywhere we can get the wheels moving, we're going to get them moving. Because this is that your any work your brain can get done, it will. And it's in there having a party. It's like, oh my gosh, wheels are moving, I have some things to work with that I've been looking for decades. Right? Even though we didn't get to the origin of that stomach issue, much stuff has happened. And the work we do on the stomach issue in the present will start to reduce the original memory, because it is the original memory. And it's not going to be direct, but bringing it down here in the present is going to bring it down in the past. And then when you're ready to go to the past, so like you might have desensitized half of it, it might not be nearly as painful as it was before we did the present moment. And so when I'm doing this stuff, I just keep going. Like, I don't necessarily, let me see, Karis asked a question. I hope the live is good. Anyway, um, I'm going to check really quickly, because, running your mouth when things are frozen is not very cool. Okay. I'm trusting we're good. Um, so, um, how you know what to access is whatever's in front of you. Just like how you know how to clean a kitchen that has been destroyed by all 5 of your children, you just pick a place and start. And whatever's in front of you, that's all you do. And you just tune everything else out. Nothing else matters. Seriously, seriously. And that's why in my program, when I guide you to do exercises in there, I make it so that you're only looking at one thing. Yeah, we're going to put everything down there, and then we're getting rid of that. We're done with that for now, and we're just one, and one, and one, and one, and one. Pick a place and start, literally. And if you have repressed memories, if you have lots of your childhood that you cannot remember, if you have events in there that you can remember but you have trained yourself not to, don't go back there. Holy cow, don't go back there. Stay right here. You can get so much work done, because a lot of that, if you've got painful trauma back there, that means there's so many programs your brain wasn't able to accomplish for today. Like today, you're running on, you've jerry-rigged everything, right? These are not actual brain function programs your brain has woven together beautifully. You've gone through life on a raft, like you were going down a river. You grabbed a piece of wood over here, you grabbed the stick that went by, and then you whipped them together, and you're floating down the river of life. And then there's another thing that comes up, and another thing. You are not riding on a yacht. You're riding on the things that you picked up, and I commend you for that. Like, you rock, because you've made something out of nothing. This is creation, this is mastery, this is phenomenalness. And so there, but yes, it's not a yacht. You're not chilling, you're not cruising. You don't even really have the luxury of going and dealing with all of the past stuff. Plus, if you do, you could get knocked off your raft, and now you're down the raft with not only without a paddle, but without even your raft that took you a long time to whip together. Stay out of there. But if you're somebody, yes, if you're somebody who can look back at their memories and you're good with it, and you can keep your 2 feet on the ground while you look at that. Or, you've got yourself a good little boat that your brain has weaved together for you, and, it's got some stability. You can lean a little to the left, a little to the right, you're still in. Go ahead, take one on. You'll know which one when you that one and what that to take on, because it'll be there in your face, and you'll notice it keeps coming back around. That one, grab that one, grab it, and then work on it. And I teach people how to do that in the second week, because we need to build that skill. And it doesn't have to be in the past. Like I said, you can build it in the present, you can build it in the future. Doesn't matter, just build the skill. Build the skill of working through an event. Um, and then when it's time to go do some of this bigger stuff, you'll be really strong and skilled to do it. But I will also tell you that when you have all this complex childhood trauma and you've jerry rigged the situation, most of the work you need is the present. You need your brain to start making nice programs where you need to build your boat, right? And you need to do that by helping your brain get those wheels moving and helping it start creating functional programming for today. And so you're going to take one thing. And for instance, I have somebody with incredible amounts of trauma right now, and sleep, like homegirl, it cannot sleep. And so that's the one function I'm working on her to build. And so to build that, that's what we're focused on. That's the function we're on. But to do that, we have to catch this flashback, and we got to get that one processed, and then we got to grab the next flashback, and we got to grab the next flashback, and the next one, and the next one, and the next one. Holy cow! And these are just the nighttime ones. Okay, but what happens when you get one of these flashbacks, and you take it to the root, and when you get there, right, if you can, and this one's brain really wanted to do the memory work, and so we did the memory work. And so when you do that, there's so many functions that your brain gets to build along the way, like some courage, and not and bringing and being present, right? So that you don't feel like you're still in the past when you're in the present. Um, so many. But as we resolve each one of those, it's crazy. This is why I'm such a fan of people with complex childhood trauma. Um, we were reviewing, because I want to come back to the sleep function frequent all the time. How we doing? Play out for me. 7 o'clock. This happens. 8 o'clock. Eight. Let's look at it. Um, and now flashbacks are not the thing. Every time she talks about something different. Flashbacks are not the thing on her mind anymore, because she's not worried about them anymore. They're not happening. And the ones that are happening, they're not terrifying her, and they're not taking her back to that age. She's actually being able to be present with them. The other thing, she said, she was like, "Oh yeah, sleep is great. I'm only having panic attacks for 30 minutes now. I was having panic attacks for 2 hours, and I knew that because when began our work together, that's what we were tracking." And she's like, "Oh yeah, only 30 minutes panic attacks." Okay. And I laugh because I'm like, y'all, but you guys are incredibly strong. You've been living under hours of panic attacks daily. And it's like, to have any symptom reduction is like, "Oh, I'm great." And I'm like, "No, we're going to keep working here. This is not acceptable. We're healing this." But it's like, I just, I laugh, but it's sad, but it's funny because we're going to rock the whole thing out. But holy cow, if I had a panic attack for 30 minutes, you wouldn't see me doing lives for a while. Anyway, let's not invite. Okay. So anyway, but where were we? We were at, how do you know? Okay. Ah, my brain is a funny place to be. That's really how it works. Yeah, that's it. That's how you access it. And it's like it literally, it's like those the plates at a buffet. Literally, that's literally what it's like. And your mind will bring it up, and you grab the plate, and then you put it through the dishwasher. That's the trauma processing. You're doing some interventions on it. And then it comes out of the dishwasher and is good. And then you come back here and there's another plate. And so you grab that one and you put it in the dishwasher. And then you grab that one and you just keep working on this pile and pretty soon there's no more in there and nothing will come up. And then I'm like, well, what about this? Does that make one come up? And what about that? Does this make one come up? No, there's no more of that come up. They will come up. Dishes get dirty, right? But by this time, you've done 10,000 plates. Okay, maybe not that many. Um, you've done as many plates as you can in 120 to 300 hours of specific and targeted brain work. And by this time, you know how to do this. Oh, you're like, oh, yeah, that's a dirty plate. I know what to do with that. And your brain knows what to do with that, right? And so you just keep doing it the rest of your life. You wash the dishes for the rest of your life. I'm sorry. I'm sorry to tell you that. That's how it works. But you don't want your whole house covered in dirty plates. You don't. You don't want that. I can tell you that you don't want that. So that's really how you do it. So great question. Great question. Um, yes. Thank you, Melissa. And then Michelle, why would traumatic stress levels rise when you're trying to fall asleep? Oh, I love that question. Even if the past experience isn't related to sleep, bedtime, etc. Yes, there's a brain function reason that that happens. And I love to explain this. And I have in many videos. So when you watch my videos, you'll be like, yeah, I heard you already on this. So your thinking center, your prefrontal cortex, and that's also where your executive functioning lies. Um, Studies have shown by fMRIs and things like that that it's the most active when you are resting. And your prefrontal cortex's job is to solve problems. And so at sleep, when it's time to go to sleep, you lay down, movement is stops, right? Your mind becomes free, and your inner healer says, time to get to work. Those problems that we've been having, we need to go get those right now. And so it will go and get them. And then because it doesn't get it through, right, it starts running up against that and you have symptoms of racing thoughts and all the things. And then your brain says, okay, well, okay, we didn't heal that one. Let's try another one. And then this happens, this happened. Then you get up and you roll over and you switch your brain state again, or you go get some food and you calm down from that one. And then your brain goes and says, it's time again. And so going to sleep, there's a lot of inner healing that happens then. And it's a natural function that needs to be working. That's why this is so important that this function works there, because your brain needs to do that, but it should be smooth. It should not be jarring. Oh my gosh, and all the racing thoughts and it's supposed to do this work outside of your awareness. If it's not, number one, you're dealing with anxiety, depression, traumatic stress, which means that this function for your brain to resolve issues is blocked, which usually means that it wasn't, that there's somewhere down the line it got blocked and there's no programs. Or this happens too when things change in your life. Things are new and your brain does not have a program for that. It needs to create a new way of being for you, a new subconscious program. And it uses the same function, moving things through the healing pathways, the updating pathways, moving stuff from the back to the front to create, getting the whole brain together to create something new. So if that process was knocked off by trauma and isn't functioning very well, you're going to have a hard time creating a new way of being for the new things in your life. So this tapping stuff is not just because you're emotional or you have all this trauma. It's also something that helps your brain create new ways of being for you. We're constantly outgrowing our subconscious programming because we are always growing and we are always doing something new. Life requires new things from us all the time. Our brains have a process for creating new functions where we try something, see how it works, gather the data, come back in, gather again. We need to make a couple changes and adjustments over here, right over here, right? But if you did something and it didn't go very well and you got embarrassed and a big chunk of emotion just flared up that your brain has associated with another past trauma, this, the humiliation of this one, humiliation of that one, now it needs to try to move all that humiliation through, and it can't because it's stuck in all those past traumas. And so you can't get the stuff through to be able to do the process of creating a new program. And so your brain will stay up at night and like try to make the new program, try to make the new program, try to make the new program, and it cannot, and it knows it can't, and it will not stop till it does. And so this is really a great opportunity to help your brain through its process for updating, for healing, for getting rid of, for resolving conflict, internal conflict, right? Because sometimes you want to do this, but it conflicts with what you were told as a child, right? And your brain is like, I don't know what to do. What do we do? Both are important. You take this through you take these both together and you put them through the healing pathway and help your brain do make something of this, resolve conflict. All of a sudden, once it comes through the other side, your brain's like, oh, well, why don't we just try this? Right? That's its job. It's good at that. If it's not doing it, there it's blocked somewhere and it needs some support. Or it doesn't, and you can just stay there until um, everything lines up, and things do line up. I like to wait for things to line up every once in a while because I'm like, that project, you know. But after a while, it is not. It starts to generate more distress and more distress. And then I'm like, okay, let me get this now before there's a whole problem. I don't need that in my life. Plus, it doesn't take long, and then you do it. So, um, so that's so that's what happens with sleep. Um, and when you're sleeping, your brain is still doing that. You'll go into REM sleep at some point if you get there, if it's safe for you to get there, if your brain will allow that. And your brain starts to work through memories and emotions and thoughts and feelings. And if that doesn't go well, your survival system will interrupt it and you will have a nightmare. You'll wake up in a terror. But what we're supposed to be doing is that REM sleep there. And because these processes are supposed to be going on outside of our awareness, our brain is constantly working and trying to support us. And it will do what it can when it can. But if it doesn't, you're going to hear about it. If it cannot do its healing process, you're going to become aware of it and you're going to hear about it. And that's actually brain saying, hey, can you help me out here? We need some help. Right. And so that, and then you can help it if you're listening. And when you have lots of symptoms, sometimes you can't help it with all the things because you're so busy fighting the other fires. And if you're using these interventions and you're fighting those other fires, you will eventually, number one, resolve so many issues. Your brain may resolve this one because of all the work it was able to accomplish and all the subconscious programming it was able to create for you. It may just resolve this one itself. But again, still, it's do whatever's in front of you. Always do whatever's in front of you. Um, so, yes, sleep is for real. That's actually the first, um, I had developed this type of insomnia right when I found emotional freedom techniques. And I was like, let's try it. And within 2 minutes of using that intervention, I was asleep and I never had that problem again. It was wild. And then I woke up the next day and I was like, what else can I try this on? And I just went all over my life looking and hunting for things. And that's really cool when you have these tools and you accomplish one project with your brain, then you're like, what else are we going to do? And you go, right? So, and then you do the next one and you're like, holy cow, I think this is like something. And then you find the next project and you do it and you just keep doing one project after another. And pretty soon you're feeling a lot better. I find that after about 10 hours of this work, people feel a lot better, even if they have so many symptoms. Um, and and let me tell you, 10 hours of work is not where you stop. Just so you know, you might be feeling all fabulous, and I love that. I'm celebrating that with you. But get back to work. You'll know when that work this phase of construction and healing is done. You'll know. Um, and so absolutely okay. Um, okay. Megan says, wow, thank you. You're welcome. You're so welcome. I am dependent on things that numb my mind currently. Yes, I definitely need to listen to my body. Thank you so much. Absolutely. When people use the word numb, what I really want you to hear is I'm in a lot of pain. Numbness does not happen for no reason. We don't try to numb for no reason. We try to numb because we're in a lot of pain. It is numbing. The act of numbing is a survival response that I have no stones for. I cannot throw a stone at you because you do. I want you to survive. And and so really it's here that there's a lot of pain in there, which means there's work to do. And you can resolve that pain really, really, really quickly and then get your choices back that you don't you'll probably need to deal with the biological addiction stuff, right? The biological dependence, and then there's also a neurological conditioning component of that. All of these interventions help the brain do each layer of that work. And so you can really find yourself free and free easily if you will address this stuff at this level of brain function. And so yeah, I feel you. So you got this, and yeah, pick a place and start. So and absolutely jerry rig, right? Um, Yeah. And please don't be ashamed of the boat that you jerry-rigged. You know, some of us come to mothers that are not well, to fathers that are not well. Some of us come to not having mothers and fathers, um, and not having very much kindness in our life. And the fact that you're floating right now is a miracle in and of itself, really. And and so please don't be ashamed of your boat or your float. Maybe it's just a floaty. Maybe it's just a couple twigs that you found. Please don't. This is really honoring. And maybe you want to go sit on the bank for a while, and maybe you get a bigger, better boat. But let's have some gratitude for the boat, for your little floaty, and maybe it just gets a seat of honor somewhere, and we send it love, but it can really be, that's something for me. I felt a lot of shame around just how I had jerry rigged things to work and how they looked pretty good, but they really fell apart pretty quickly. And so um, and I didn't have it nearly as bad as some of the people I've worked with. And so I really honor that vote. It's really, and honor yourself for having the creativity to get there. You figured out some brain tricks. You figured out that if you use this thing, substance or food or whatever, if you use that, your brain calms down. You're learning brain function. You're learning that you can work powerfully with your brain, and you can take that information and start using different things. And as a matter of fact, with substance abuse, coping strategies like shopping, um, um, oh, eating, coping strategies, scrolling on Facebook. You can actually use interventions with those. And you can use those things as signals that you need brain support and use an intervention as soon as you discover it. And so that can really give you a lot of brain space, and also start doing the neurological work around the compulsions, the cravings, and all aspects of the addiction stuff, whether that's addiction to Facebook or whatever. So if you're going to take your brain with you to some activity, you can also take your tools with you to the activity. And so anywhere your brain is acting up, bring your tools, help it out. It's not acting up. It needs some support. I think about it, it's like in the river, right? Your brain's in there and swimming, it's not effective. It's just swimming in place, wasting all this energy. These interventions are like you come up behind your brain and you just give it a little push. And then it starts swimming. It's like, oh, okay, I got some forward momentum. It's moving. And then you come behind it again and you just keep pushing it along because it needs to make it to the other side of this thing. And that's really the work. And as it goes and as it keeps moving, it'll go longer and farther, and then you got to swim and catch up to it and say, okay, another. And so there's really this works anywhere that you're going to take your brain. Okay. So yeah, the act of numbing as a survival strategy. Absolutely. Yes. Melissa says, realizing that many of my coping mechanisms also prolong my actual dealing with and finding the root. Yes, that's that's what it does. And if you can catch yourself doing that, you can create strategies for yourself around that. so that you can actually use your brain function to signal, oh, I need some healing, as opposed to what happens, we just get into it and we do it, and then, you know, and then we're like, crap, I just did that thing. And then we beat ourselves up and stuff. No, every piece of that is worth tapping on, is worth using your intervention with, every piece. Because you can really get yourself, you can really use all of that stuff to get well. And you have to. All those symptoms, you can, it's, the lemonade thing. Make whip this. Those are happening, and they're those symptoms, those coping things are, those are ways into the root. I was doing this. I had this client that was craving sweets, and because I always look at this for layers, I was, I can't remember how it happened, but we very quickly, surprisingly fast, went and found an early memory. She was in her crib and was being pacified with sweets. And so it was coping then. So it was programmed in early. And once we resolved that memory, all of a sudden she didn't need them anymore. And then later, and so she just stopped cold turkey because she was just like, oh, sweets. Later, she was having some struggles, and she was intentionally using sweets to support herself while using tools to really create the deep, lasting change. And that's, and I haven't heard about that since. So so all these things are really, are they're here for a reason, and they're not, it's not because you're bad, it's not because it's there is a brain function reason this is, you're doing this, that this is happening, that you're coping, or you're having symptoms, or that you've got a disorder, or you're not getting along in your marriage, or your kids are, or you have no friends, or you have all the friends, or whatever it is, there's a brain function reason for everything, including all of the awesome things you want to have in life. There is a brain function reason that you can X, Y, or Z. And if you're not, let's help your brain do those things. You can actually use your brain function to create the life that you want. It's actually, I see this happening. I'm hijacking this conversation because I'm going to say what I want to say right now. When people do this work, I'm opening my book because I think it's in a different one. I'm going to see if I have this right because I wrote this down. When people do this work, I notice that different layers happening. And the first one is they'll do symptom elimination, right? And they'll get the symptoms that are bothering them out of the way. And so that's done, right? I'm going to say something else about that. And then you come to step 2, and this is personal growth. This is where I find that they have areas of growth, and I guide them through this process. So it's kind of funny that I think it's random, but it's not. So, and then we work on the brain function to fulfill your roles in your life, whatever they are. Every area of your life that you have the brain function for it, the programming for it, that we look through and resolve all of the subconscious programming issues for you to fill your place. Like if you're a mom and you need this and you're only here, then after symptom elimination stuff, we're going here to create the function that you need so that you're performing here. If you're a wife and you're here and you're only here because of all that stuff that was going on, then we need to make sure that your subconscious program helps you fill this, right? And that I call that personal growth part. And once that layer of work is done, then, and really it's done for now, because after brains, when we resolve, when we heal something, it will do a lot of, I don't know what I was going to say there because I need to finish this other thing. Okay, so symptom elimination, then personal growth, and then dream life creation. That's the thing I see next. Now we're going after what we want. Okay, we did the symptoms. Now we're filling our place, whatever that might be. And now it's time. Now people are like, I have dreams. I actually can dream about things. Like I have things I want. Like before I was just like, because I ask people when I'm working with them, what does your dream life look like? And they're like, I don't freaking know. I don't know what is beyond these symptoms right here. And so, but I ask anyway, because I'm interested. And plus then when they start dreaming, I'm like, ha ha. So, um, and then we get to that layer, and then their life starts to look like they actually want it to look, right? They're building, they want this job, or they want to start this business, or they want to be able to do their hobby or their passion. Maybe they're painters, and now they're able to do that, and they're working on that. And then the next phase of this work, what happens is spiritual growth and expansion. And I see that happening a lot as well. Um, I'm personally on that in the dream life creation phases. And so I'm still exploring them from the inside out, but it's good, man. So let me come over here. Let me come back to. So, and then what I think happens is I think it's more like the symptom elimination work is a fundamental skill that we use all the time, but we don't have to use it as frequently, but it's always there to catch up all the things, right? Because brains, when we run into something that we don't know, brains have it's I don't have a program for this, right? And so there's if we can use the tools to get that program. um, and then there's the personal growth, right? So whenever we start the dream life creation, we're doing that work, and then let's say we want to be an entrepreneur. Well, there's a whole program that needs to be built here, right? And so, I mean, there's a whole we need to fill this new place. And so you take the personal growth thing that you've practiced, and you put it in there to fill this new place that you want to be in, which is a business owner or an entrepreneur, right? And so you really start to take it from the back with symptom elimination work that's covering everything, and then personal growth, which, anyway, I have some more work to do on that. But thank you for humoring my first go with explaining that. I think I have more work there to do to be able to communicate that. Okay, so but that's what you have to look forward to. That the symptom elimination is not where you stay. You don't just stay like looking around your life and finding problems. If you can't stay there, that is misery. That is a stage, and then you want to get out and move to the next one and fill that one up, and meet those check those boxes. Can I function well in each of these areas? Well, right? Not perfectly. Can I function and create? Can I thrive? Right? And then check that box. And then you've got dream life creation. You can't stay there either, but do it. Check those boxes. Know what you're working on, and let your brain start filling that in. That phase is where your brains really start to do, like, to be there means your brain is really moving, right? You just you talk with your reticular activating system, show me this. And it starts filtering that stuff in, and you get different functions working for you. We are, anyway, I'll do a video about your reticular activating system soon. But all this is during to get to dream life creation, there's a lot of cohesion that's happening. And so and there's a lot of work your brain when you get to this point that will do on its own. I'm understanding in the spiritual expansion piece that many of that happens non-cognitively. That that all your systems just start to work together in a very beautiful way without a whole lot of work. And let me tell you, from this place, I'm going to tell you that the hard part for me here is to stop working and just be with it now. Like, trust the brain function, trust your brain. It's learned a lot. Let it go. Stop hovering over it, Rachel. That stuff. And so, but that's kind of a fun new thing that is I'm playing around with, creating the neurological programming for, while shifting into trust. I Anyway, that's what I'm learning. So yeah, but that's really the deal. Every little bit of this works, and it starts growing, and it starts steamrolling, and it starts building this whole machine of wellness and thriving. And really the trick is just do the one thing right in front of you, and do that one thing, do that one thing, do that one thing, and do that one thing. And do that 2 hours a day, right? And so, and if you want to follow the roadmap that I have created to get you there and to teach you these skills, right? That you will do on repeat, and that you will learn how to do, and you will do these exercises, and you will learn how to do them on paper and while you're moving and when you're with other people. But if you want to follow that roadmap that's available on by working with me in inner world transformation, I have an online program that I've made available. It's on my website and it's available for self study. And I have two opportunities on there. One where you just buy it all at once, jump in the program, and that's an 8-week course. And you can do one part of the program each 8 weeks, right? And at the end, it will take you step by step through the 8-week process. And then when you're finished, do it again. You might not need to. I don't know your history. I don't know what you're doing. Many people will never need to do it again. Some of you, especially with complex childhood trauma, you're going to do it again, but it's going to be totally different the second time, right? Or maybe if you're like me, you just like one activity and do that over and over and over and over and over again. And so, and then the other opportunity for self-directed study is to do it over an 8-month period. And this one, the investment is like you get to make small monthly payments. I was hearing back from people that this is something that they wanted and needed, and so I was like, let's create it. Let's do it. And so that is an opportunity that where you get to do each part of the program each month. And so you get the opportunity to really go deep through each process and take your time in it, but still do your work. And by the time you're done with the 8-part program, likely that's plenty of time to resolve something. Plenty. So, but those are available for self study. And if you want me to personally walk you through this, I have an 8-week intensive coaching program available. And that you can find on my website as well. And you can learn all the details about that. And then for Oregon residents only, I have a therapy practice, and you can learn about that also on my website and details about working with me, and I can answer those questions. But I encourage you to go to my website and at least look at it, right? And that's at rachelmcleod.com. And I've left that up there in the introduction or title of today's session. And let's see if there's anything else I can. Oh, yes, let me tell you. Okay, so things are happening and changing in my world. I have a Facebook group, it's free, and I am opening it to men because I have been working with women only in coaching. In my therapy practice, I have been working with all kinds of people and children up to 14 and older to help all kinds of people eliminate symptoms of anxiety, depression, and traumatic stress. And I have decided to do the same in my coaching program. And so in this week, you will notice that I'm going to change the name of the group to Releasing the Baggage of Anxiety, Depression, and PTSD, maybe traumatic stress. We'll see. And instead of women releasing, and I will be changing a lot of my marketing to reflect what I'm doing, my coaching program to reflect what I'm doing in therapy. However, that being said, I've done enough of this therapy work to know that I'm not ready, and I don't think most of my clients are ready to be doing gender mixing work. I don't know how to say that. If somebody knows how to say that, please let me know. Um, and I have asked a lot of people, and they are like, I can't be in a group with men. So good, we're not doing it. And I've asked men, and I'm like, I am being in a group with women. But some men really do well. And so I may give some opportunities just for an all genders group because that might be awesome. And it probably will be awesome for many people. I find that I'm going to tell you this, that I have found it to be very healing for me personally to work with men and be in their inner worlds. My inner snob has been totally reprogrammed by that experience, and my compassion levels are through the roof. I have been wrong about so many things because when you take a symptom like being a jerk to your wife and you take it all the way down, which none of us like, right? And I don't know about you ladies, but this one at some point, this would trigger me. And I'm like, I have an inner part that like is going to get the pitchfork. and I want to fight. But doing this work with men and my own biases, because they don't belong in therapy, and taking this down to the root issue. Holy cow! Um, we're no different. We're just no different. We're no different. And I don't even have a lot to. I don't have many words for that yet. I'll have to find the words for that, um, but it's really wonderful. And what's really cool. So I find that it's really helpful and healing to spend time in men's inner world. That's what I was going to say. That I have words for. And I also find that it's really helpful for men to spend time in women's inner world. And um, I think that that's just such a healing thing. Healing for us, healing for relationships. And so, anyway, that might happen. And yes, thank you, Melissa, for the win with words. Would be great to create a new co ed group since some people appreciate a women only safe space. Yes, that. So that both groups can coexist, even though it's slightly more work for you to double post things. Oh, I think what you're talking about in a Facebook group, I think that's accurate. I have a little bit more thoughts on that. That is opening me up to shifting the Facebook group to co-ed. But in my programs, especially because it is more work to do double post, and um, but in my programs working with me, I will only have women's groups and men's group, and maybe a co-ed with full knowledge and consent and people wanting to be there. um, and there are women like that, and men, so, and all genders on all sides of the spectrum. So there's that. But I think, yeah, it's really been to do. I'm doing trainings on these interventions, and um, to have it only available to women is really has been eating at me. But I think that I'm going to trust that the people that I attract and that we attract and that everyone in the group attracts is are going to be awesome. So, and they're going to behave well. And if they don't, we'll work on that. Okay. So, and women don't always behave well. Have you noticed? And I mean, not my Facebook group. Everyone's fabulous. So, uh, but I think that when we're talking about healing, we are bringing our A game, whatever, even if it's a jerry rigged A game, we're bringing it, and I think it's going to work out really, really nicely. So that's where we're at. And but yeah, so in that Facebook group, there are free trainings where I'm teaching you emotional freedom techniques, thought filled therapy, an energy medicine routine, and I've EMDR. I'm teaching some of that. I'm teaching an alternative strategy for using EMDR that's not trauma processing, but that does help the whole brain come together, and you can get a lot of work done with it. So definitely, if you're not part of the group, join it. And if you're a guy, join it. I'll add the link here so you can find that. And if you're a guy, I'm going to wait. I'm going to ask you to wait a little bit because I'm going to get this switchover done this week. But definitely join now, and I will admit you when things happen. Okay. Wonderful hanging out with you. This was a lot of fun. But yes, thank you. You're welcome, Melissa, for the gratitude. She said so much gratitude for the work that you share. Thank you for being here to share it. And um, yeah, love to you all. And I'm cheering for you. I am cheering for you. So if you don't know if anybody's cheering for you and you're wondering, you just put my face right up there because it's me. I am on cheering you team. So I will see you later. Get those interventions, try them out, see if they work. If one doesn't work, there's going to be one that does. And if one doesn't work now, probably it will work later. So try them out, give them a go, and see what your brain does. Take care.